Hi, my name is Kai and I am your lecturer today. Our topic is about communication, and I hope that at the end of this lesson, you will learn to define communication and demonstrate understanding on the process of communication. So every day, communication takes place and it is an integral component of our lives. Like we deal with people and we communicate with them. Thus, this is what makes communication, whether oral or written, unavoidable. Hence, let us discuss communication and communication process. Now, the word communication is derived from the Latin word communicare, which means to share. So, communication is basically an act by which a person shares knowledge, feelings, ideas, and information in ways that each gains a common understanding of the meaning, intent, and the use of message. Communication also takes place even without words. For instance, our four senses of hearing, seeing, touching, and smelling may all communicate. For example, the ring of the alarm clock signals that it is time to wake up, or our eyes scan the window for the time of day or weather. Now, the feel of the breeze on our skin indicates if it's hot or cold. And of course, lastly, the smell or aroma from the kitchen indicates what is being cooked. So when a message is sent from a source to our receiver, a specific mental or physical response. Now, physical response in this sense is communication. So specific mental or physical response happens. Now, communication is a two-way process, and it is equipped with transmitter and a receiver. So as a result, it is critical that facts be sent in such a way that the intended meaning is conveyed and the listener understands the message's purpose. So it becomes a two-way conversation. There are numerous forms and ways of communication available. For example, in India, people greet one another by folding their hands. In Japan, people bow from the waist. And of course, in the Philippines, the word mano o pagmamano is an honoring gesture used in Filipino culture performed as a sign of respect to elders. So simple hand gestures, just like those pictures on the screen, are a great way to communicate. And through these gestures, a competent and culturally sensitive communicator can discern feelings and reactions. Now, according to studies, people spend approximately 70% of their active time communicating. Thus, communication is described as a process of meaningful engagement in which a person sends, receives, and comprehends a message. Hence, there is always a reason for communication. There are two variables that are always present in communication. And these variables are the content and the communication climate. First, there must be some content to cover. And these contents include instructions, news, evaluations, gossips, ideas, and so forth. So these contents are present every day and we have to deal with it on a regular basis. The second is the emotional environment, or often known as the communication climate. When the climate of communication is positive, it is easier to communicate ideas or do business. So in instances that we are in our home or offices or even outdoors, we must make the climate positive. So the communication would be comfortable, easy, and open. Now, it is through communication that we are able to build relationships. So now, let us discuss the process of communication. So these are the following components of the communication process. So the sender is the source of the message, and the sender is the one who encodes the message. Basically, the primary responsibility of the sender is to convey the message in the most comprehensible way possible. The receiver, on the other hand, is the recipient of the message from the sender, and he or she is the one who decodes the information conveyed by the sender, and his or her responsibility is to, of course, understand the message. Now, the message is the body of information that is sent by the sender to the receiver. So it refers to anything that is communicated by the sender to the receiver, while the channel, this, is what connects the sender to the receiver. It is the means of assessing the message sent by the sender to the receiver. For example, mobile phones are commonly used as channels of communication nowadays. Feedback is the response of the receiver to the sender. When feedback is made, the role of the participants in the communication process is reversed. That is, the original sender becomes the receiver, and the original receiver becomes the sender of the new message in the form of feedback. And feedback is not always available in the communication process. Interference or noise is what hinders the communication process. Now, noise refers to the distractions that hinders or interfere with the accurate transmission and reception of the message. So since the goal of communication is to convey information, the process begins when the speaker generates an idea and then encoded. The transmitter then transmits that message via the channel, and the recipient receives it. So when the message is received, the receiver interprets or decodes it, and it is when the communication process is effective if the receiver provides feedback. Of course, there is always interference that may affect communication process. And these interferences include physiological or psychological noise, external noise, semantic language, and situation or context. Now, for physiological and psychological noise, this noise refers to those noises within the communicator. For example, the mood or feeling of the sender or the receiver. For external noise, these are noises in the form of sights and sounds. So external noises, such as the sound of the ambulance. Now, semantic language are those noises between the communicators, or these are the barriers in the way of interpreting or understanding the message. Now, for situation or context, it refers to all the interrelated conditions in the communication process. And sometimes the context or situation helps in the success of communication, but sometimes it does not. So, moreover, there are factors that may affect communication process. And these factors include psychological, social, cultural, and historical. Now, for psychological factor, these refers again to the communicator's mood or feeling. For example, you may need to assess the mood of your father or your mother before you ask for an additional allowance. So if she or he is in a good mood, she or he may give you 100 pesos even when you only ask for 50 pesos. Now for cultural factor, this refers to the values and norms shared by a group of people. So for instance, it is advisable to learn the culture of a particular country before you come to visit to avoid offending anyone in the process of communicating with them. Social factor, on the other hand, refers to the place, time, and environmental conditions that make up the communication process. Example is, it will be hard to converse with your friend in a noisy supermarket. And of course, lastly, historical factor refers to previous communication incidents between communicators that may affect the way they deal with each other at the moment. So an example of this is you are happy to hear from someone because he or she has been your friend since high school. Indeed, it is through communication that we are able to forge friendships as well as social, business, romantic, and all other forms of relationships. And one of the goals of communication is to convey information. But there are factors that may affect communication process, and these factors include psychological, cultural, social, and historical factors. On the other hand, all the spheres of human existence continue to thrive or continue to succeed because of communication. So I hope you have learned something today, and see you again on our next discussion about communication networks. Thank you, and don't forget to like and follow Teach Tech. Bye!